And welcome back to the Cinema Cornerman podcast with your hosts, the beautiful J. Mara, and myself, Jacob.
Hello.
We are reviewing the Green Book today.
Just Green Book.
We are reviewing Green Book today. Yes. Before we start, I would highly advise you go watch this movie. It will be spoiler alerts, or I should say most spoiler alerts. I just kind of say it, and you expect it. But this one, I would highly advise you go watch this movie before you watch the podcast.
Definitely.
All right. Green Book was directed by Peter Farrelly. Peter Farrelly was the director, and it was written by Peter Farrelly, Brian Curry, and Nick Vallelonga.
Vallelonga.
Yes, one of Tony's sons. Yeah, it's featuring Mahershala Ali as Dr. Don Shirley, and Viggo Mortensen. The two of them, I think, did a great job together. We'll get into that. You also had Linda Cardellini, Sebastian, Maniscalco, and a lot of other impressive actors.
Yes.
Yeah, with that, I guess we can get right into it. Green Book was a movie about a working-class Italian-American bouncer who becomes the driver of an African-American classical piano player on a tour of venues through the 1960s American South. I thought it was important to kind of give an overview in case you saw it a long time ago and couldn't really remember. So, is that, J. Mara, what would you rate the Green Book?
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll.
8.5.
8.5 out of 10. Interesting.
Out of 10. Yeah, what about you?
I give this one a 9.5 out of 10.
No way!
This was up there.
Interesting.
I'll get into the reasons why exactly, but overall, this movie was this movie is the reason that I watch movies or like stories in general. I don't even know how to say it. It's almost making me nervous just talking about it because I don't think I'm going to do it justice as to why it does make me feel that way. But I thought this was a great movie.
I think this was a great movie. I think this is my highest rating so far. I definitely know that it's yours. But yeah, this movie was very interesting to watch. And it's shocking to me because I'm usually attracted to like a bunch of action or like romance. But like this movie, it wasn't like overly action or overly any drama. Like it was just a good movie. I don't even know how to explain it.
The fact that it was a true story is ridiculous. That somebody actually lived this story.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Themes and takeaways. What'd you take away from it?
I mean, it's about race, right? So basically just, learn to accept people who aren't like you. Everyone has challenges. We're all the same. Like, that's basically what I think that they were hoping that you can take away from it. They're just trying to let you relate. And I think that's what the entire movie was going through. It was just like developing and kind of
even if it's not just the race part, it was just two, people that were just complete opposites, becoming friends, over a car ride.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
What?
I don't think it was just two friends. Like this movie would not be the same if it was just two friends learning to get to know each other. Like it was specifically about race to me.
Oh, not just to you then.
Like it wouldn't have impacted the same way if it was just like two Italian guys in a car. Like no.
The first difference. Takeaways from me. There were a couple lines that they had throughout the movie that were, I would say, part of the theme as well. Um, the line that said, "There are a lot of lonely people who are too afraid to take the first step towards like friendships and such." When he was talking about his brother that he hadn't talked to in a while. Dr. Shirley's points about dignity being more important than pretty much anything else seemed like a pretty heavy theme to me.
Than anger.
Right, yeah. Keeping your dignity is way more important than that. But yeah, I do think that, and we'll talk about it later, but my favorite scene pretty much summarizes the theme, I feel like, entirely. So.
You can just say it now.
My favorite scene?
Yep.
Skipping right ahead. It was, my favorite scene in this movie was the scene with Tony and Don when they were arguing in the rain. The entire scene. Well, yeah, after they got out of the jail.
Police. He brought the jail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he called the attorney general, they got out of jail, and then he's upset because he looks ridiculous to this guy now and put him in a bad situation. And Tony's just brushing him off and he gets upset.
Mm-hmm.
The whole scene, it was just from start to finish. And it had, the build up to the scene and the catharsis, I guess you could say, from it was equivalent to like the gladiator scene whenever he takes off his mask. Like I got the exact same, maybe not the exact same feeling. It was more emotional. This one was than that one, but it was like that same, like I said, cathartic feeling that you would get, that I would get from it. That's what made me like the scene so much.
Well, I think from the start is where I started to actually feel something for that scene, because like when the cops arrest them in the first place, like that's when I start to, my anxiousness and my attention is kind of like focused on the scene, on the movie, or it gets more focused at that point when when the cops arrest them, when they're in jail, when he's trying to talk to them and they're ignoring them, but he's still like keeping his dignity, so to speak, and he's not acting crazy, he's not throwing a fit, he's like, I know my rights. He just keeps repeating himself, and I feel like after he calls Robert Kennedy and they're all like scrambling and stuff, like, because it's like playing out in front of you, right? So like, I don't know, I feel like that whole thing builds up to when they finally get out, and then that's when like he lets out his frustration.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And then he lets out his frustrations, and it's like the complete opposite of what you would expect from the character. And so he lets it out, and I could feel like every single feeling that he had in that moment. I thought it was executed perfectly.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was my favorite. I guess since we're starting at the end of the good, what was your favorite scene?
I didn't have a favorite scene because, like I was saying before, like it's not a very high action filled. It's not like there are a lot of very dramatic moments in the movie, so there wasn't like this one big dramatic blow up for me. Like I had a bunch of like little scenes that I just remember, and so so I would say the first couple scenes that I loved are the ones with Tony's wife, because I don't know, like, so the first scene that I really, really liked was when they had, the zucchinis come over. I don't know why they call him that, or is that what they call them? Eggplants. The eggplants. I don't know. I still don't understand why they call them that, but when they came over to help her, and then Tony throws the cups in the garbage, and she just like pulls them out, but she doesn't confront Tony. She just like shakes her head, like, kind of like just in just a little bit disappointment. And then that was the first, the beginning, and then you move on to the end when, like, she thanks Dr. Shirley for helping him with the letters, and she's like so happy to see Tony with Dr. Shirley. Like, I just love all the scenes with her because her reaction and her like response to her husband, it's, you know, it's not just like she's not like judging or anything, but she's just, but she is like she's there in the background to let us know how she feels about certain things, like just her reaction. That's what I got from her anyway. But I really like the scenes with her. Um, and I just love Tony. Everything about Tony, like just when Tony, I feel like Tony finally gains respect for John in that scene where like Oleg was explaining to him like why Dr. Shirley's traveling because he could have made more money at home and all that stuff. And that's when I
Was
think
that
that
Oleg?
Tony
I
really
don't
got
think
it.
that was Oleg.
Yeah, it was Oleg.
Okay.
Um,
But yeah.
when he
I
was
don't know that he fully understood it then, but yeah, that's when it started. That's when I fully understood what he was doing. For sure.
right. I don't know. I think that was a really good scene because then Tony was like, "Oh, he could have made more money at home. Like, why is he doing this?"
Yeah, I think that's more with
And
like why is he doing like that's when he started questioning it.
right.
Yeah.
And then he actually got to know him. Like he wasn't just like, you know, driving him around.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, those were good scenes. There are so many good scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess starting off my good section, one of the reasons I think this movie works so well is because there was so like I said before, the showing not telling in this was off the charts. There's just so many examples of times when they would just show us stuff and trust that us as the audience would be able to understand it rather than just saying things to us. Like for example, Don's drinking habit, Dr. Shirley's drinking habits. Like at the start of the movie, whenever they first start driving, I should say, he explains to Tony that every night he expects to have, you know, I forget what exactly he said, like the full bottle of alcohol every night. And, you know, Tony's like, oh man, I can help you with that if you need. And he's like, no, I don't need any help. And, you know, they could have gone right there. I feel like a normal movie would have gone in right there and been like, oh, why do you drink so much? And he'd been like, oh, I've had a real hard life and I had done this and that. And like dump it all out just right there. It didn't do that at all. And I feel like that just little things like that it did over and over again helped me stay like involved and actually care about these characters as they were unveiled.
Because I think it's like a real story. Like because in real life, like no one's just gonna like dump all their problems out at you at once,
Exactly.
you know? So it made it feel like, oh, I'm noticing that he's drinking a lot. Okay, but then you forget about it and then like, you know, days later, quote unquote, from movie, they're like, and then he starts going into a little bit more and a little bit more. So it felt like more real because a certain amount of time passes by before you actually get the full story.
Exactly. And all it told us really was that there's something a lot deeper about this guy than he's showing off or he wants us to think.
Right. Because when they did do that, when they said that about the bottles, I was like, why does he need an alcohol bottle every night? Like my brain, I was just like, why does he need that? Yeah. But yeah.
It just allows for so much more nuance and like intrigue in the movie whenever we can figure it out, and you know, it's presented in a way that lets us figure it out. I just thought it was great storytelling overall throughout the whole thing. Let's see what else. Oh, I like that there didn't seem to be like a main villain in this movie as far as traditional storytelling goes. I didn't think there was like one single, you know, person, you know, the way that most movies have, but instead it was just like the whole
human population.
Like, right, yeah, almost like in Dunkirk, how it was like all the Nazis, right? It wasn't like one
right.
person.
They didn't actually show you the enemy.
Right, and it just made it feel so much more daunting and like huge. Which I like that about it.
Which a lot. I think it should be.
Yeah, it definitely worked out. And it also didn't like. Whenever I think of like segregation, for example, in this or slavery in American history, it reminds me a lot of. It's very similar in theme to me to the way the Nazis are presented most of the time. And I like that in this movie, it didn't feel like they were trying to explain to us how bad stuff was, but like in the South, right? It's just like every single character knew how bad it was. It didn't have to sit there and tell us, you know, oh, expect people to be, beating you up or,
Well, they
taking
showed it to
advantage.
us.
It did show it, yes, and that's what I'm saying. They weren't just sitting there like explaining it to us like the entire car ride and stuff. Like they knew what they were getting into beforehand. I like that. It was very intentional.
Yeah.
Let's see. My list of goods is much longer than the bads. So
Same.
I guess we can get into the characters. I love the two main characters. I think Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen just play them spectacularly. It never felt like they were out of character, like ever.
Yeah.
Like Tony always felt like this funny, easygoing guy that could, beat someone up if he ever needed to. And Shirley was always this like perfectly stoic,
Manicured. Yeah.
yep, perfect person. Yeah. So, or at
Yeah,
least
they never,
yeah,
at least what?
at least attempting to be that perfect person.
Right. To me, like, I agree. They never came out of character. In every single situation that they came across, they always, they had the same, like, I don't know. They acted the way that you expected them to act, in my opinion. Like, their characters never did anything out of the ordinary. But to me, like, Tony was probably my favorite character just because of how, like, nonchalant and chill. And he didn't give a crap about anything. Like, he
Yeah,
didn't care about
eat
saying the
fried
right
chicken.
thing. He didn't care about being himself, and that's what I really love about him because it's like, yeah, like he doesn't have to worry about anything. About he doesn't have to, even if he did have to care about what other people thought about him, he doesn't. Like he doesn't give a crap if, they have to say his name wrong. Like I love that scene. Oh my gosh. So they're like, you should change your name. He's like, Vallelonga or nothing. Like,
Or lip. One of the two.
oh yeah. He's like, they can shove it up their ass. Like, oh, I don't know. I love that. Like he doesn't care. He's not gonna change himself for you. And I really like that as the movie goes on, he starts acting that way with Dr. Shirley and for Dr. Shirley. Like when they were in the car and that couple pulled up next to them and the girl was like telling her boyfriend or whatever, getting him to notice that, this black man was being driven around, and Tony just puts up his middle finger. He's like, no, like, just who cares about you? Just don't look. I don't know. I like that he started doing that for Dr. Shirley. But yeah, Tony, he's a perfect character. I think he's a perfect character.
Yeah, he had a good arc as well from learning and adapting to not adapting I should say, but learning to overcome his tendencies whenever it came to Dr. Shirley and how he viewed him. It was a very natural progression of from like the racist stuff he would say at the start to not or to defending him and inviting him to his family's Christmas. By the end of it, it seemed like a natural progression, which was very good. I thought I liked it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Shirley as well. I thought he was played very well. I could see why he acted the way he did and wanted to be as perfect as possible, so he could be that beacon of, in order to critique other people, he felt that he himself had to be perfect before he could do that. So
I think I related to him.
Yes.
Even though he had what?
Even though he had many demons of his own.
Right.
That he dealt with.
I think that's why I related to him, just because there's a point in the movie where he gets really frustrated and he's saying how he doesn't fit in with the black folk and he doesn't fit in with the world that he puts himself in. So really he doesn't belong anywhere.
That's my favorite scene, yeah.
That.
So if I'm not black enough and I'm not white enough and I'm not man enough, then tell me, Tony, what am I? Ugh, what
And
a
that like that hit me because it's like people. I don't want to get too much into race, but I mean that's what this movie was about to me, and I feel like that was me. Um, just just the things that he says, because it's like, okay, you're not black enough, because like for me, like I never fit in with anyone actually, and so for me it was like, okay, I wasn't black enough to hang with, or hang out with the black crowd. I wasn't white enough to be with the white crowd. I was, like, so then I kind of feel like you don't really belong anywhere. And, but you have like these goals that you strive for, and it's not like based on color. It's just what you want to achieve. But then it's like you don't really fit in anywhere. And that like hit me really hard because I was like, I don't know. It hit me. That was an
yes,
intense scene.
yes, I agree.
And it's
Like I
very
said,
relatable.
yeah, that's pretty much it for my goods though. And I could keep going on and on. I think the writing was great. I think the videography was great. The soundtrack was really fun to listen to while I was writing down my notes.
Yeah.
The pacing in this movie, I didn't even mention that. It was I can't remember ever checking how much longer was left in the movie at all, which is very unusual. Even if I'm enjoying the movie, I would like check like, all right, how much longer we got. This one, I didn't even realize it. I think it was like 2 hours 10 minutes, but I didn't even realize that until the end. So
Yeah, that was good.
pacing was, it was never a dull moment, but it never felt like forced. Like they were like trying to push the action and keep you entertained. Like it just.
I think I did check the time though when they were in Birmingham. I was like, wait, isn't that the last place that they're at? And then I checked the time just because I was like, oh wait, this is the last stop before he goes home.
Yeah, that's about it for me. Onto the bad, if you would like to start.
I don't like the beginning scenes with the Copacabana, with the gangsters and all that. I don't think it fit in at all to the movie. Um, and I didn't like the characters. Like I feel like there was too much dialogue with those characters that didn't actually contribute to the movie.
What characters?
Like the gangsters in the beginning, the one he stole the hat from,
Okay.
and the person that owned the Copa, and then all those like gangster friends that he met up with, like they ran into when they were in I don't know where they were, but they ran into him in front of the hotel. I don't know. I don't even know why they were characters. I don't know what they contributed to the movie.
When I was watching it, to me, those characters were, I guess, signifying what his life was at the start. You know, he was a guy that was literally just trying to make a buck wherever he possibly could, even if that meant, doing shady stuff. It's Tony first, and then everybody else. So to me, that it made sense whenever I was watching it. But that's fair. I can understand that critique. I really didn't have anything. I guess like you said, now that you said that, I guess those characters could have been maybe like shorter.
That's what I'm thinking. Like they went. I want to say they went too in depth with them, but it wasn't that much time. But it just felt like it was too much time. If that makes sense.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean they could have pushed, because to me it never felt like whenever he saw the guys like midway through the movie again and they offered him a job, and to leave the driving thing.
Mm-hmm.
It never felt like that was an option. Like I was like, all right, well, Tony's not going to do that. Like,
Right.
so they could have pushed that a little better, maybe. But the story itself was still understandable to me. So I don't know. I didn't have any bad written down, so hence why it was rated so highly for me. But yeah, was that it for you? Sorry, I kind of cut in.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, I guess that's about wraps it up. I guess a shorter episode with no real critiques. Like I said, I think this was an amazing movie. If you haven't seen this movie, I would highly recommend going and seeing it. It's like top 4 movies for me now of all time.
No way.
Yeah, this was a movie. And the weird thing is, I don't think I'd watch it again. It's kind of like Gladiator. Like it was a great movie when I watched it, understand it fully, and like if I rewatched it, I'm not gonna say I would be bored, but I'd know everything that was coming. So.
Yeah, I think this is an impactful movie. Like, if you want to be impacted, maybe once. It's a good movie to watch.
And like I said, I love that they trust their audience to figure it out. Give us enough to figure everything out, and then let us figure it out. I think it was done very masterfully.
I think that was the point, though, which is really good. Like, they did exactly what they wanted to do. And because of the whole, like, divide... Mm-hmm. Like in our society, our history, it's like, okay, we know, we already have.
They didn't have to explain that baby feed. All that to us. Yeah.
Like we have that background in our minds already, just from life, and so they kind of just slowly bring it out of these characters and show you, because they don't have to tell you, you already know. Which that's a really great part of this movie.
And that's why I felt like it was more like the two friends part. Obviously, the race was a big deal, but that's why I feel like this was more about these two guys becoming friends, and how that came about. These two polar opposites, the one guy, Dr. Shirley, who won't eat without a fork and knife and plate, and the other guy who's eating fried chicken out the bowl, and slinging it around the car.
But I think the race thing is so like intertwined with exactly what you're saying.
100% it is.
He's eating with a fork and knife because people expect him to be this, like, I don't even know the words. I can't even think straight. But
civilized.
They're expecting him, not to be civilized and to be like, I don't know, not to be proper and to hold himself the right way and not to say the right things, and that's why he holds himself in such like high regard and he does the right things all the time, because he's trying to show them, like, we can do anything. Like, we're not just your stereotypes of who you think we are. And he can't get out of that character. He can't, because then people will judge him and he'll be right back to where they put him, to the ground. So he's gonna do everything the right way, no matter what. And I think that's why it was very impactful for me. But yeah, amazing movie.
Great storytelling. 9.5 out of 10. I'll see if anything can ever beat that.
Never know.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it. You got any last words? Last remarks?
No.
Awesome. Thank y'all for watching. See you next week.